Welcome back. For years, Britain has struggled to get to grips with antisocial behaviour, and it's not getting any better.
No, it's not. Today, Daybreak can reveal the true picture. Police figures obtained by the Labour Party show that across England and Wales, almost 3 million incidents were reported last year. Anything from verbal abuse to graffiti and criminal damage. Manchester was the worst affected area with almost 53,000 incidents, followed by Sheffield with nearly 41,000. In Birmingham, there were almost 38,000 incidents.
Cities like Norwich, Northampton and Gloucestershire have also reported large numbers of incidents.
Well, here's what some of you had to say about YOB Britain.
We actually had our doors kicked in just because my boyfriend went and picked up the bins out.
I think a lot of older people, like we are, worry about going in town centres and that on an evening. I wouldn't go to a lot of town centres.
When I first moved up here from South London, I was surprised at how many stupid little fights there were.
Some to be noticed got mugged. And what'll happen with them? Nothing goes out.
If I didn't know it down here, you wouldn't want to come down here.
When I was young, we was out on the estate, you never stayed at home, whereas nowadays you're more conscious.
Well, Cordelia Kretschmer has spent the past 24 hours in Greater Manchester. What did you find then, Cordelia?
Well, that antisocial behaviour is just a fact of life in many communities around the UK, like this one in Salford. Of course, in everyday life, you don't call it antisocial behaviour. You call them bullies, vandals, hoodies and the like. But we all know what we're talking about. It's that kind of low-level nastiness. I filmed some scenes here last night just against these shops. We've decided not to show them to you today because they're a bit too offensive for breakfast time. No crimes were committed, of course, but as I said, it's antisocial behaviour. That's how the politicians describe it. And just now on the programme, Asha Nardone, a mum of 2 boys, one of whom is disabled, told us this.
When you live with just constant fear, constant crime, you know, you can't get your son to hospital, your car's being damaged all the time, you know, the cost implications, your children are terrified, they can't go outside. And what it does, it totally destroys your whole life.
Well, Tanya Birch is another mum, this time of 2 daughters. She lives around here. Tanya, what happened to you?
Well, we had eggs thrown at our window, ketchup all over front window, front door and the step. People would scream at us, swear at us, throw water bombs through our front door into the hall.
So it stopped short of actual violence but had a terrible effect on your family's life.
That's right. Our children lived in terror, crying, asking to move away, pressure on our marriage and many more problems. OK, and something very sad happened. Unfortunately, I believe it was due to the stress that I lost my baby.
Which is just catastrophic for your family, and this is the kind of really serious effects that this kind of stuff can have.
Cordelia, thank you very much. Crime Prevention Minister Jeremy Brown is here, along with Shadow Home Office Minister Gloria Di Piero. Thank you both for coming in. We saw there people's lives are absolutely blighted by this. I mean, it's a complete nightmare. You know, that lady losing her child, she believes. It doesn't get much worse than that. You've come up with something called community trigger. There's lots of buzzwords that I'm seeing here, but actually what is being done...
They're all quite confusing,
yeah, very much so, very much so.
Well, some of the things that we were hearing about then are just straightforward crime, you know, people having their doors kicked down and things like that. So we need to treat those as crime and not try and diminish those sort of activities. But what we're also talking about is a lot of that low-level or lower-level activity, but things that add up and make people's quality of life much more unhappy, much more miserable. So we're talking about graffiti, litter, late-night noise, all of those sort of things. And the government are bringing forward a whole range of measures, which I hope will have widespread support to try and make more power for victims, more power for local communities, but also make the process a lot quicker, because what frustrates people sometimes is when they report these problems or they want the authorities to act on them and they feel that nothing is done. I'm not saying we're going to solve it overnight. Of course we're not. Your report just showed what a problem it is in communities right across the country.
Absolutely massive.
It makes such a... I mean, I say as a local MP, probably the biggest thing that people say to me when I knock on their doors are all of those things. It's not... Most people, thank God, are not victims of really, really serious crime, but it is those things that added together all make their lives more miserable. Yeah, exactly. That's what we're trying to
live peacefully. You know, we should all be able to...
And if you've got somebody in the flat below you who's playing loud music at 3 o'clock in the morning, or every time you go out to the shops they're saying nasty things to your kids, or they never put their rubbish out and it's starting, or all of those sort of things.
Sure.
They make your life... So we are trying to... But it's difficult because obviously you can't wave a magic wand. So what we're trying to do is give more power to victims, more power to communities to try and get this dealt with quicker.
So this all sounds great.
You've got to get tough on antisocial behaviour because it does cause a misery for people. Now, what I'm worried about is that you're going to scrap the ASBO.
and they're going to replace it with something. Basically, if you breach the terms of an ASBO, say you've got somebody playing music all night, someone goes around and says, you've got to stop doing that. If you don't stop doing it, you'll end up with an ASBO.
Right.
If you continue to play music even after your ASBO, you breach the terms of the ASBO, do you know what? It's a criminal record. It's serious and it's a crime. Now, Jeremy's replacement for that, if you breach their new injunction, you won't get a criminal record. You won't get, and that's,
Is this
to me, that's
community trigger
No, the
thing?
community trigger is really, really interesting because if you call 3 times, then the agencies will have to act. Now, we don't think that's good enough. You know, anybody watching the programme...
The agency will have to act in 24 hours, actually, isn't it? They don't have to act immediately. They have 24 hours to act.
I don't think anybody watching this programme would think, I have to call 3 times to get some action. You want action straight away. As soon as you pick up that phone, you want action. Because the thing about antisocial behaviour is by the time you make that first phone call, it's probably not the first time it's happened.
No, indeed. You're at the end of your
There's
tether.
an important point here, though, which is not that we want people to wait until they've had 3 calls before they do anything about it, but they should never wait more than that. And what has happened, if they act the first time, that is great. You know, we want speedy response. But what has sometimes happened, we heard that report from, I think it was Asher then, about what's been happening in Dorset, that you report things again and again and again to different people, the council or the police, and you feel that nothing has happened. So we want to try and have some sort of line and say, if you've got the certain number of reports, you must act. And that's what we're trying to speed it up rather than slow it down.
Is it all about what they sort of did in New York, I guess, that you were talking about cracking down on things like graffiti, which blight the area, and if you like, less serious crimes, you know, get tough on that right away. But it's about getting tough, isn't it? You have to. You know, it's all very well having, like I said, all these buzzwords, but you actually have to take action.
I think you do have to take action, and the problem we have with the ASBOs, 2 things quickly. One is that more than half the people breached their ASBOs.
More than half of those went to prison, Jeremy. More than half, if you breach it, half of those people who
Sure, but
breached
what you want is the
prison.
people not to commit the antisocial behaviour in the first place. And the other is we are trying to get a shift in behaviour, full stop. So rather than just sort of having, you know, slapping an ASBO on somebody, what can we do to address the causes of that? If they're drinking too much, they might be forced to go to various classes to try and address their behaviour and all of those sort of things. I said again, I'm not saying it's a magic wand. I'm sure we can have a good debate about lots of different ways that we can try and address this problem. But I think people right across the board acknowledge that it is a really serious issue. And it's not just in big cities, in communities right across the country. And we need to do more to address it, and that's what we're trying to do.
Thank you.
Thank you both for joining us this morning.
And do let us know what you think.
Yeah, 17 minutes past 7 it is. Coming up, what now for the Osbornes? Sharon opens up about Aussies drinking and drug taking. Will they stay together, I wonder?
And killed by a lethal diet pill. But why is this deadly drug that killed this young medical student still being sold online? Sarah Houston's parents join us after this break.